it's the weekend, and as the weekend comes, so does Michael Snyder, and I don't mean that in any salacious fashion. And here he is. Where are you this time, Michael? You in Hollywood?
I am indeed, and getting ready for a Hollywood Halloween. I'm sure it's going to be berserk. I'm afraid, not a lot of goodies in the candy bag here. Some tricks and some treats, and I guess we should get to the movie info if you're ready and waiting. It's a slow weekend at the movies. I don't know why and how. You would think, this is a festive time to release a bunch of films, and it's, the middle of the autumn. We're heading into awards season, and if anybody behind the movie Inferno was thinking awards, well, they ought to think again, unless we're talking about technical stuff. It's the third film in the Da Vinci Code international thriller series. I don't know what else to call it. Anyway, it stars Tom Hanks as the symbologist Robert Langdon and co-stars Felicity Jones as his companion on his mighty quest, because that's what these movies are about. So anyway, you got Tom, America's best buddy, now favorite Uncle Hanks, and his director, Ron Opie/Richie Cunningham Howard, re-teaming for the third adaptation of a best-selling novel by author Dan Brown in that thriller series about the brainy Langdon. The scholar was the hero of the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons, and now we have Inferno. The main conceit of these books and the movies is that Langdon finds himself forced to solve ancient puzzles and riddles, endangering his life and the lives of his Confederates with the fate of the world in the balance. And in the case of Inferno, the issue is a population thinning plague. So spoiler alert, everybody. It's going to be unleashed by an eco-terrorist who conveniently leaves a trail of clues that will allow anyone brilliant enough to know Dante's Divine Comedy to find the viral time bomb before it is set off. And that means Langdon and a sympathetic medical professional played by Jones. Although it's still pretty weak sauce, for me this is oddly enough the best of the three films in the series, and maybe it's because the screenwriter David Koepp is a better hack screenwriter than Akiva Goldsman, who did the first film, Da Vinci Code, and co-wrote the second one, Angels and Demons, with Koepp. So by leaving Koepp to his devices and dumping Goldsman, that instantly meant a better script, for better or worse. Anyway, the locations are great, and a couple action sequences are pretty tense. There's a lot of stuff going on in Florence, Italia. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. You get French North African actor Omar Sy as a tough guy, and Ben Foster as an entrepreneur, and the Scandinavian actress Sidse Babett Knudsen, who's in Westworld now and was one of the stars of Borgen, this unbelievably great Scandinavian TV show. She plays a World Health Organization honcho and Langdon comrade from back in the day. They're all fine, and this is still damning with faint praise. Inferno, cable or streaming at home, is about what this deserves. The Inferno generally fizzles. In a more limited engagement, we have Oasis, Supersonic, and this is a documentary about the British art rock band, the pop heroes in the 90s, and in the grand scheme of things, it's a band with about 3 great songs, 1 great album, 1 good album, and a bunch of crappy lyrics. Not much else, but for a brief shining moment, they were massive in the UK in the mid to late 90s, and they were on a bit of a roll in the US and elsewhere. So when it comes to longevity is not the issue here. No. There was tabloid fodder with the 2 leading lights of Oasis, the brothers Liam and Noel Gallagher, and their sibling rivalry. They were constantly sniping at one another. They had all these drugged-up hijinks and other random bad behavior in classic rock star trash a hotel room style. But their body of work isn't much, particularly when you compare it to maybe the still productive Radiohead or even shock horror Coldplay. They had their moment, though, and this documentary by Matt Whitecross basically hones in on their rise and their ascent to fame and massive stadium-filling power back in the day. It's an interesting story in a pre-social media, pre-digital revolution, pre-reality TV way, the sibling rivalry. But it doesn't go too deep, and it really doesn't get to the roots of the Gallaghers and their issues. Then that may be because they themselves are not too deep. I mean, check out the lyrics to Champagne Supernova and Supersonic, two good songs, and even Live Forever and The Great Wonderwall, tracks I adore, are somewhere between abstruse and obtuse, or to translate, between esoteric and dim. But these four tracks still sound great, and the show, as depicted in Oasis Supersonic, certainly rocks. For fans, maybe. On the other hand, I think people who are interested in the history of rock and roll and into social issues and the way society's changed in the past 50 years would get a kick out of Gimme Danger, which is Jonathan Demme's Iggy and the Stooges documentary. Pardon me, Jonathan Demme was not the guy who made this. You just sort of think it's Jonathan Demme because he makes good music documentaries. This is the work of Jim Jarmusch. And Jim Jarmusch has made a couple of real interesting indie films, including Stranger Than Paradise and Down by Law, and not much that I've liked since then. This documentary is actually one of the best things Jarmusch has ever done, better than the Oasis film. Gimme Danger recounts the decade-spanning story of the Stooges, unbelievably outrageous hard rock band, and goes into detail with solid interview footage from most of the band members, especially their leader, Jim Osterberg, better known as Iggy Pop, insider testimonials, stunning archival clips, and even some cool animation. So Iggy and the Stooges were a major influence on punk and post-punk bands, including the Sex Pistols and the Ramones, and they were influenced by peers such as the MC5, who hailed from the same general area of the world, the Detroit, Ann Arbor area in Michigan, and also the Velvet Underground from Andy Warhol's factory scene in New York City. In fact, John Cale of the Velvet Underground produced the first Stooges album. One thing that's conspicuous in its absence in this documentary is any reference to Iggy's well-known solo work with David Bowie, although the documentary acknowledges Bowie's importance as a Stooges supporter and as a means to the band continuing its work in the 70s after some serious setbacks. Iggy is a trip, and it's pretty cool stuff. And the music is, resonant to me, more powerful and more memorable than the stuff Oasis did. So basically, I would say that Gimme Danger is a big thumbs up. You should check it out. And all of these films, including the Oasis movie, are probably better served on video at home. And yet, I guess if you see the rock documentaries in a theater with the music cranked up, that has a powerful visceral effect. And honestly, that's it for films this weekend.
That's it?
Yeah.
Good. That makes it sweet and short.
Yeah, that's for sure. What are you watching on television, pal?
Just a whole bunch of stuff, but nothing I haven't talked about already, So.
Yeah, I'm continuing to seek out the new series of The Missing, which will hopefully come out
you must be getting that illegally.
I can't talk about how I get things. I'm a reviewer. They send me things. Mm-hmm. I am excited to report that it's official. Sherlock, which I still love deeply, is back on New Year's Day, both on BBC America, on PBS and on the BBC in the UK. So, nobody will have to wait for that or download anything in any way, shape, or form.
Also, I watched Dirk Quickly and the holistic detective agency.
Dirk Gently,
excuse me. Why did I say Quickly? Anyway, Dirk Gently. And I liked it. It's good. It's a newer version of it since they did it once before in England. And this new version is apparently done in America, and it's really, I think, I found it absorbing.
Dirk Gently, for people who don't know, is a creation of the guy who created the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe or the Galaxy, I don't know, whatever it is, a gentleman of some note and repute, Douglas Adams.
And also one of the nicest guys I ever met.
You had a chance to meet this guy?
He was on the show in San Francisco.
Wow, Douglas Adams. I mean, he had a horrific history in the UK. He was one of the main writers for Doctor Who back in the day, and he created the Hitchhiker's Guide and built a little industry, and then came up with Dirk Gently, another character that is well loved in the UK.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's all my only recommendation. It's on BBC America. So that's for all you people who want BBC America to do something good. They're doing it good now, even
Cool.
though they're not owned by the BBC anymore. Anyway,
Wow.
that's pretty much it, I guess. And
Well,
so-
that's branding, man. BBC. And speaking of branding, you can check me out on Twitter at Culture Blaster and on Facebook at Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page. And hopefully we'll be back with more movies next weekend.
Okay, thank you, Michael, and all the rest of you. Just stay right where you are. There's more GABNet coming right up.